And sorry, could you just clarify? I'm thinking when developing your flow, are you talking about movement flow, or are you talking about flow as in sports psychology? Mihaly, very difficult surname to pronounce. I probably should have it on lock by now. But are you talking about the mental state of flow and kids trying to search for that, or is it?
Is it the zone of optimal functioning? Is it like the terminology? Is it?
It would be Mihaly, and I think it's pronounced Csikszentmihalyi. But I might be wrong, and I no doubt someone will correct me. I'll probably run it by my good friend Sporticus and see, and actually try and nail it for once. But are you talking about flow in the head, in the body, or both?
Majority body, with a little bit of head flown in there as well. So how can we move? How can we move the same way but using less energy? So how can we move efficiently in a range of different directions, but at the same time, one kind of leads to the other? Because if you're moving efficiently and you're feeling very confident with the way you're moving, actually you're allowing yourself to do other things at the same time, which then you don't then have to necessarily think about how your legs move, arms move, because they're moving really effectively. So therefore it allows you kind of more room to do other things, which then starts to roll into connecting the physical you. That's the kind of, we've got our topics in the order for a reason. So the self-ID unit in year 7 is about kind of understanding themselves. Then you've got working as a team and together and getting to know your group and understanding each other and appreciating each other through a wide range of different kind of movement games. And then you've got developing your flow, and then you've got connecting the physical you. So now you can move, or let's put some other kind of constraints in there as well. Let's put a ball in there. Let's put a kind of a different game where you've got to catch, throw on the move, but you've got to do it with 3v3, 2v2, or and then they start to kind of see the kind of link. So our warm-ups, we're critiquing the way they warm up, saying, are you flowing the right way? Are you moving effectively enough? Are you moving with speed? Are you pushing off in the right direction? Are you using the right part of your foot? You're doing this, and then they start thinking, oh yeah. And then that then leads into kind of like the very coordination kind of style lessons that we're doing in the current unit. And then the last 2 units, we've and ahed about the kind of the order, because one of them's all about composure and contact. It's all about kind of, and that's not just cricket, rugby, rounders. Cricket, rounders, softball, baseball. We're looking at tennis. We're looking at badminton. Because making contact with an implement up here is different to how you have it here, and it's different again to how you have it down here. And actually, what are the different things you've got to consider and think about and talk about? So let me put them in different scenarios where they've got to hit there, 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 and actually, how do they hold their body in such a way where they can do it? They can hit in those different directions and at different times, and about doing it softly, doing it really with power, and doing it with precision. And so yes, it's almost like a composed kind of contact kind of unit there, where we look at kind of hitting. And we look at striking as well, but like I said, it's not just in the summer style sports; it's in a range of different kind of activities. Again, because we're not there yet, I haven't really gone into loads of detail.
Needs must.
Absolutely, at the moment, my head's been filled with connecting the physical. And then the other one is the athletic me. So we've brought a little bit of the me and PE thing. I couldn't call it anything else. I've just stuck me on the end of it with athletics at the moment. Because
that leads me on to a question, actually, and I think there'll be people listening who will be, really captivated by what you're saying, really curious about what you're saying. And if I was to be like just to challenge a little bit, and I'm not saying, and I don't necessarily think this is per se a flaw. I think notions around breadth of curriculum can be really problematic, but if I just adopted that devil's advocate for a moment, I'd say it sounds a bit games based. It sounds very games heavy. Do other traditional areas of what is normally considered phys ed, gymnastics and dance, do they feature prominently in the work that you do with the children?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, that goes back down to our venues. So our unit titles are then broken down into about 6 to 8 different weeks. Those 6 to 8 weeks then allow you to explore a kind of an area or a kind of learning objective, as it were, for say for that week, for those 2 lessons. So say for instance, I know, let's go, I'm in the gym. I'm looking at my scheme of learning, and it says down there on week 5 or topic 5 or lesson 5 or whatever it is, it says they're creative movement. Well, I'm taking that straight into the into my gym, and we're doing gymnastics. If, for instance, it's taken out by for exams, because you lose kind of, we lose our space quite a lot of the time being PE as part of the kind of role, then I might take a bunch of basketballs into the school hall, and I might do kind of movement and dance to music with bouncing the balls, say for instance. So therefore creating routine and choreography and things like that. So all our different units and their sub lessons, as it were, through the scheme of learning, they all have a dance, a gymnastics, a parkour, a different style, an element of it to suit the venue they're in. I talk a lot about games because unfortunately, we're 2 weeks into year 13 mocks. We lost them in the summer. So a lot of the stuff we've been doing has been outdoors on our Astra or our Muga, very old AstroTurf and Muga. So, and we haven't got the field because it's like it's a kind of a sodden wet kind of fest at the moment. So, but when we get a lot of those kind of venues back in again, that's the kind of stuff so connecting the physical you. So what we're going to look to do in there is how can we physically move over obstacles and around obstacles and through obstacles, and that might then bring in a little bit of kind of flight work in gymnastics. That might bring in definitely some connecting your physical you. Dance in pairs, for instance. How can we dance in pairs? How can we move freely? For instance, when we come to spirit of the community, then we might do some kind of group work and pairs work and kind of group balances and those kind of things. And actually, how can we work together to create the most kind of artistic balance we possibly can within the constraints that we have within our group? So yeah, it does lend itself around all of those kind of different kind of areas as well. But yeah,
great. So I'm hearing that I'm hearing that you work through multi-domain approaches, but the physical and movement, you probably use the words moving and movement. It litters your vocabulary, and it is clearly something that you feel very passionately is front and center, and dare I say it, I don't not wish to put words in your mouth, but is the unique contribution of the subject that our main medium for learning is in and through the physical. Now, one of them, and when you talk about that, what comes through is deep knowledge of movement. So I'm curious, where did you get that from? Because there's a lot of, I know you said your formal training was at Chichester. Certainly for people entering the profession, like Ahmed, who's looks like he's left, or I hope he's left now on a Friday evening. But
he's gone.
I'm guessing he would have come through a 1-year postgrad course.
Yeah.
And having taught those courses for many years, it was something I really grappled with. How do you introduce that deep subject matter knowledge, which is, for me, I always use the analogy of working with a master chef. Like that, Gordon Ramsay will know everything about food, but it's what he then does with it that makes it magical. Yeah. So it's not the knowledge per se, it's the application of the knowledge. But you mentioned earlier, and I think it's another very appropriate analogy, that if a kid has got good movement patterns, they've got the headspace to then think about other things and how they're applying them, or where they might go, or what they might do, or the decisions that they're making. And I think that's the same as what, that's coming through in what you're talking about. Your eye is tuned into the detail of how students are moving, because that's unlocking physical activity experiences for them. So how did you get it? And are you seeing people in your team, do they have the same depth of knowledge as you?
Yeah, great questions. Look, I'm a self self-proclaimed PE geek. I love my activities. Like, you know, we've talked before about kind of like my kind of sporting background and things, and my athletics and football and badminton and volleyball and cricket and absolutely everything I've kind of played to a relatively decent standard with quite a few. And I've taken everything out of that. And I'm thinking, what made me good at doing that? What made me successful in doing that? What allowed me to do this? And when you're 6'4" with long levers, it's sometimes easier than someone who's 4'11" with short levers. But at the same time, I always say to people, you still got to get there. You've still got to be able to move into that space. And so over the course of teaching a wide variety of kind of a sport traditional based curriculum over the kind of like, you know, the 10, 12 years, 13 years of doing it that way, you pick up little strands through that as you go through. So like, you know, for instance, my team are going to hammer me because I use this like for the whole first year of kind of like as my go-to example. And they're like, oh, here he goes again with that same example. But you know, the drop step you use in basketball is very, very similar to the split leg movement of a badminton overhead clear. Like, you know, I know the kind of transfer of weight from back to front as well, but that movement is very central. If you're jockeying in football as well, or you're kind of like shadow you marking, like it's the same stance. It's no different. But it's allowing the students, and you know, if you play, if you understand, if you know you've got a rich kind of history of kind of like playing a wide range of different activities, you start to pick up those quite quickly and go, right, okay, so all you need me to do is move like this. Yeah, absolutely. I want you to move like this because it's going to allow you to do that. And in my brain, I'm thinking that's the same thing I did when I used to play badminton, or I used to play squash or football when I used to do it. So you start picking up a lot of this, and then you start kind of doing a little bit of reading. You start doing a little bit of kind of like asking people. You start doing a bit of a watch, and you're thinking, right, this has got hold of something straight away. So I picked a lot of it up through the actual taking part and doing. So that's where my kind of background and my knowledge comes in from. And it kind of clicked. I got observed in a lesson in my previous school, and I was supposed to be doing badminton, and as you know, it was a badminton lesson in the sports hall, and it was on footwork and movement. The sports hall was getting used for exams, shock, and so they stuck me into the small gym. I said, right, I need the small gyms. I need to do this lesson, and then the kind of deputy head teacher was like, well, you can change what you're doing if you want. I was like, no, you'll still see footwork in badminton, but we're going to do it through basketball. Do you mind? And this is like, well, you do what you want because I don't understand. I'm not too sure of what you're doing. So you just show me and I'll see if it works. I was like, absolutely. So therefore, I got a basketball. I started bouncing a basketball. I said, right, okay, well, I want you to step like this. So when I start to move towards you, you're going to go into a defensive drop step, and you're going to move backwards. But you can do it with a badminton racket in your hand. And they're like, what? And you can do it with a badminton racket in your hand. And then all of a sudden, the kids could then start to sit, because then they're moving back like this. And you're thinking, great. And then as they start to move forward, I want you to step forward with your racket hand, and you're going to move towards me like they would move towards the net. So they're going to start to move, and then they're going to move backwards. And they can see the transfer of weight, and they can see the transfer of the back, and you know, the kind of the racket foot moving backwards and forwards. And I just thought, I'm onto this here. And then for the rest of the lesson, we did kind of a 1v1 basketball lesson, but they're going to have that same stance. And I said to them, the stance that you're going to have in these 1v1 kind of situations with your partner, you're going to bring it to next week's lesson for badminton. And we're going to, and the next lesson we had, the kids were just moving so much better. My brain just went, why aren't you doing this across a wide range of different activities? Why aren't you just producing movement? Why aren't you teaching movement? Because that then unlocks everything for the kids, because that child now, who now knows how to kind of do that, you know, footwork, we call it, we've adopted the kind of term, the super stance, because it seems to kind of like be ingrained in a lot of different kind of physical activities. If they've adopted that, if they go to basketball before school here and they go to badminton club, it allows them to access it way easier than if they just went, right, I'm going to go to badminton for the first time because I know how to hold a racket. They might know how to hold a racket, but if they can't work the bottom of their body, the top part's never going to work. And so the access for our kind of it is quite at the moment, we're gonna kind of, I'm going off tangent here. The summer term, we are going to start to kind of work towards an after school diet of a lot of the stuff they're doing in lessons, because they're finding we're enjoying it. But we do have a traditional kind of after school, we do have rugby teams, football teams, badminton teams, indoor athletics teams, netball teams. We have all those, and we have lots of fixtures to fill in. There are places for those within schools. but I'm getting 75 kids to football. Netball's getting 45 girls, and not all of them can play for the teams. But what we're allowing those kids to do if they want to go and explore that is we're giving them the skills, we're giving them the motor competence to kind of join in and look like and feel like they're part of a team and squad. And they're not going there kind of tripping over their feet, falling over and moving to the side and kind of, getting beat relatively easy. Actually, we're allowing them to go, do you know what though? I feel at home now because I can actually move. The throwing and the handling, that can come as part of the team. That can come as part of the training in the squad. But that's the way we've kind of thought about those processes here. Actually, movement is key to everything. And the one area where we're looking to kind of explore in the future is that meaningful kind of PE, really. So I've had kind of adult conversations in lessons, and this is our kind of 2-3 years down the line. When our curriculum's embedded, we want to start to drip feed this in. So I've said to students in lessons, like, hands up, you play outside school, and you've got 6 or 7 kids who don't play anything outside school, but they're out of breath and they've enjoyed their PE lesson. And so I'm saying, right, for those of you who don't, where does movement fit in with you? Where are you going to use it? And I started to give them a few examples. I said to them, look, when you get to like kind of 25, 30 years old, I guarantee everybody at some point is going to go, do you know what, I'm going to go for a run today. Do you know what, I'm going to join a gym, actually. I'm going to go down for a walk down the local park. So all of a sudden you're running down a path and someone jumps out at you. You've got to move side to side quickly, or you've got to change direction, or you're running through a crowd of people, or or your route takes you around a sharp corner or across a road and a car comes out and you've got to react. And a lot of that is basic movement skills, isn't it? And it's allowing and equipping to say, well, actually, even though I'm not going to play sport, I can see some form of worth in that. And at the moment, those conversations are ad hoc. They're a little bit kind of like, few and far between, but we want to find a way to build them into this curriculum and build opportunities for them to see it on a more regular basis. And that's where we see the next 2 or 3 years kind of go into, really. We've tried it. I tried it this week with choice. So we're looking at throwing. So for instance, our passing recent. So all right, we're going to learn biomechanics of throwing here. We're going to look at levers. We're going to start to think about our hips, our shoulder, our elbow, our wrist. But I tell you what, you get to choose what you throw. So if you're a footballer, grab a football, do throw-ins. If you're a netballer, go grab a netball. If you are unsure and you don't play any sport, go grab a tennis ball. Play around with it. Go grab the American football, have a throw, see how you feel, see what works for you, and just enjoy. So then we start looking for throwing for maximum effect, and the kids are like throwing away and much as you possibly can. Okay, now let's bring this into a game. How can we build a game around throwing for kind of distance? And the kids start then coming up with their own kind of little ideas and stuff. So that's how we've kind of started to kind of introduce meaningful stuff for the students. But at the moment, it's not as deep and it's not as robust as I'd like it. But again, we've got a new curriculum to impart, and that's in the brain for a bit further down the line. So yeah,
so much there, Alec. And so I'm hearing the relationship between competence and something that I'm really interested in, which is the emotional space that the child's in, that the student is in. How are they feeling? And what I'm hearing coming through loud and clear is authenticity. You want them to have, when you were talking about the kids on the netball court, that you want them to feel that they belong there, that they're having an authentic experience. It's not contrived, it's not dumbed down, it's not patronizing. It's saying, no, you come into this room, you're a netballer, and you're as valid a netballer as anyone else in this room.
Yeah.
And that develops an identity, doesn't it? That I could have multiple identities, whether they be physical activity identities, or I could be a netballer and I could be a musician and I could be a poet. But they all stem from having authentic experiences where you feel that you've got a right to be in that space, and that, I think, for me, that speaks back to where the conversation started around inclusion, that everybody's welcome. 75 kids at an after-school club is inclusion epitomised, isn't it? No one's putting team sheets up. No one's saying these 20 kids are invited to practice because we've got a cup game coming up. This is your football club, and you're more than welcome. So,
I mean, just to add on to that point there, we had the indoor athletic champs today. and we get on average 45 at a lunchtime indoor athletics club. And every single one of them, you can only pick a maximum of eight boys, 8 girls in year 7 and 8, you know, and it was heartbreaking because I can't fit them all in. I really couldn't fit them all. I could ask for 2 teams, but, you know, it's an indoor space, which is like, you know, every other school has to have a space as well. And I just felt really bad, but both the girls teams all smashed it and they won. But every single one of those kids came to the club. And there's 4 or 5 of them who never done indoor athletics in their life before. Don't get me wrong, there's a few really good athletes there, but I got a figure skater who just blasted everyone out of the way because, you know, she loves running, but she never necessarily had the chance to do it. My boys' teams all didn't win and didn't do very well, but every single one of them was selected from the kids who turned up from training. And I could categorically say to you now, if I wanted to, I could have put out 2 boys' teams that would have just wiped the floor with everybody, but they don't turn up to the training. So they deserve that opportunity to go out there and do it. They're the ones turning up week in, week out. So what are we doing today? We're doing this. You know, they're the, you know, and I had a young lady, and she came to see me, and she goes, "Oh, sir, is there any space for the girls' team?" And I said, I can't take you. This girl runs at the local athletics club and is lightning fast. And I said, I just can't take you. I said, I've got a waiting list of at least 5 or 6 girls who would take the place before you because they've been the ones turning up to training. If I wanted to, you know, she would have just made the team, you know, insanely kind of talented.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're about. Those kids have decided to turn up. They've made the sacrifice to turn up, so they deserve to play. And that's where the inclusive nature is starting to kind of rub off into the after school kind of, you know, teams and things as well. And that's where we want to be at. If every single one of our teams wins and every single one of those kids have turned up to every single practice, then they deserve to, you know, I mean, that's the way it is. 75 boys who've turned up to football, every single one of them have played for the school team at least twice. Because I do DCE, I do, like, you know, you got your A team, they played their kind of fixtures, but actually, you know, there's quite a few local schools are like, do you fancy taking 35 kids and just putting on a mini tournament? Absolutely. And they feel like they've represented the school. They run off when they've scored a real great goal, and they're like, "Oh, sir, I've scored for the team." You know, you're thinking that's what it's about. That kid's gonna have a memory for forever, you know. And I think that's potentially what's lacking, not in every school, but I think those opportunities to kind of, like, you know, embrace, you know, the ones that always turn up but don't necessarily get picked. And I think that's quite crucial to kind of their development, their emotional attachment to the sport or activity. So
absolutely, and that's you know, that's values driven, isn't it? We actually, you know, it's so easy to have a mismatch between what youth sport, and I appreciate the conversations veered into school sport, but what youth sport delivers on and what we think it develops. And if you're outcome driven, then you're missing all of those processes, you're missing that commitment, and you're missing celebrating that, which brings me on to what I'm going to ask to be our last question, I suppose. I'm wary of the time, I'm wary of your time on a Friday evening. Very appreciative of it. But Alec, to finish off, you've gone through all of this, you've gone through a pretty extensive review. It sounds like you've really challenged yourself and your team. You're in the process of creating what sounds like a very exciting curriculum experience for the young people at Arden Academy. What would you consider, what does your team consider success, short, medium and long-term success of that PE curriculum? What is it, what's the key outcome that your team are committed to?
Wow. I mean, I know we could always talk about the kind of the Ofsted intent kind of quotes and stuff that a lot of schools have, but it is literally, you know, pupils engaged in movement and enjoying what they do. You know, I know that sounds quite twee and a little bit kind of you know, wishy-washy, but for me, if kids are engaged in what they do and they enjoy moving, they will always look to continue to do it. You try and tell me a kid who is fully engaged, loves moving, and when they leave school goes, "No, that's it, I'm done with PE, thank you very much, I'm going to move on to something else." They just won't do that. So our commitment long term is very much to kind of drive this home with our students and to try and make our curriculum as inclusive as it possibly can, engaging as it possibly can. And we had a local school come in to see our curriculum about 2 or 3 days ago, and we took them upstairs and said, just have a look down on all our courts, try and show me someone who's not moving, you know, have a look around, what do you think? And they were just blown away about the fact that they were, you know, there's like 90 kids on the Muga and they're non-stop moving around, and they're having fun and they're enjoying it and they're taking part in what they're doing. And when I step back and see that, I'm thinking, yes, this on a day-to-day basis, this every day of the week for me. And I think when we start thinking long term, you know, our Key Stage 4 curriculum, we're doing pathways, and, you know, we've kind of shored that up a little bit, but bringing these year 7s and 8s forward into a year 10, 11 core curriculum, which again develops meaningful opportunities for them. And because that's the real crux, isn't it? When year 11 is as close as they're ever going to get to leaving school. So what are we leaving them with? I don't want them to do this to wait to year 9 and go, right, stop, brilliant, okay, now just do your kind of football or whatever options, because you feel like you're almost missing the point. There is a place kind of for those kind of traditional sports on the curriculum, because, you know, so many students by year 9 have picked football and that's their life and they love it more than ever and absolutely explore it into more detail and definitely. But what we're still doing a little bit of a disservice for our Key Stage 4 students, because, and again, they haven't been part of our journey. So when our year 7 and 8 kind of move up towards that kind of age group, we're looking to bring a lot of what we're doing here and transfer it into the Key Stage 4. I see success from our year 7s and 8s is when I go into a lesson in year 10 and they're on, I don't know, movement, whatever else. I'm going to say to them, look, here's your equipment. I'll see you in an hour. But I want a warm up and a drill, and I just want you to go and have some fun. But you're going to organize teams. You're going to do this. I'm going to sit back and I'm just going to enjoy watching you guys play and move. That is success, because the least I can do, well, the less I do and the more they do, surely that's buy-in from them. You know, and I want to try and get to that point. I'm making try and make my job easier for myself, I'm being honest. But that's where I see, because they'll go, sir, you go and sit yourself down over there, give us the equipment and we'll sort all of this out for you. But they do it in an empathetic way. They do it in a positive way. They do it in a resilient style way. You know, when something happens and they can't get the teams picked, they don't just come over and go, sir, can you just pick the teams, please? Because little Bob over there, you know, they're resilient enough to go, guys, we need to figure this out ourselves. Let's just get this done. And however long that takes them to do, but gradually that kind of process gets easier and easier and easier. That's the vision for the Key Stage 3 into kind of Key Stage 4 curriculum. What the activities they do, I couldn't care less, as long as they're all moving and having smiling and having fun by that point of their career, you know, by that point of their kind of school journey. If they're having that much fun and they're engaging that much, no one can tell me that when they get to the end of year 11, they're going to stop moving, because it'll be a lie.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm sure I've got loads of questions about the teaching processes and what lessons look like. I would respond in the affirmative to the invitation that's coming through of come and have a look. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I might have to pop up to Solihull, but you know, maybe some of those, maybe part 2. See what I've done there?
I like that.
Maybe part 2, we can talk a little bit more about pedagogy. We might also talk about what's your evidence that they're moving more and they're immersed in it and they're having really positive experiences in it. And we've already had conversations about how my move might help you with that.
That's gonna play a big part of the evidence. And I'm not saying that because you're sat here on the other side of the screen, but we need something like that to say, I have evidence to show. The best form of evidence is come and have a look. Come and see the kids. Come and stand there and watch, you know. And don't get me wrong, you are not going to see in a lesson, oh my good Lord, the teacher has worked. Have you seen the kind of questioning they've done? Have you seen the way they've stopped and started to intrigue and kind of, you ain't going to see that. What you're going to see is loads of kids buying into and engaging in the process of taking part with a focus in that, with 3 different strands of focus in the lesson, you know, the ACE, the Aspire, being the very best they can be. The curiosity, are they asking questions? Are they trying out these movements? And the energy, the attitude they bring to their learning as well. So you'll see a lot of that, but everyone's going to come along. They'll go, well, is that it? No, that's not it. Just step back and just have a look. Have a look at their faces. Have a look at their kind of eyes. Are they engaged? Are they enjoying? Are they loving what they're doing? That's the real kind of crux of kind of PE for me. And I know there'll be loads of people out there who kind of traditionalists or kind of like, research people, and they'll be saying to me, oh yes, but there's a fundamental learning thing. You've got to make sure. Look, that comes as soon as the kids are engaged. You can't put learning if the kids aren't loving what they're doing, because that's going to be a complete waste of time, because they're just going to literally switch off straight away. If they are engaged and they're loving what they're doing, that then gives you the basis for them to learn. I might get that horrendously wrong, if I'm being honest, but that's the way I see it. And after 17 years of teaching on the forefront, that's always worked. That's always worked.
That's such a nice, there's so much to explore in there. And there might be people who will be listening and they'd love to find out more. There might be people who want to challenge you and to things you said. So if there are people who do want to get in touch and you are willing to engage with that, where or how could they get in touch with you, Alec?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter as Greg. No, I'm on Twitter as Stan06 LAE. You'll see it, because I'll be the one kind of either helping or criticizing, and I probably shouldn't have been, because I'm just. Yeah, it's an area I'm seriously passionate about. And sometimes I apologize to anyone if I've offended, because it's never offending. It's just me kind of questioning what I'm doing at the end of the day. And am I doing the right thing? And it probably comes out a little bit wrong sometimes. So I sincerely apologize. But yeah, find me, DM me. I'll quite happily. I've had 5 or 6 conversations online already with some fantastic practitioners. So if you are more than welcome to kind of contact, I'll have a chat with anybody. So yeah. Only if it's good. Only if it's good.
So I'll put that in the notes that would accompany this, which I very much hope will be part 1. Alec, we've been talking for 70 odd minutes, and it's your Friday. So thank you so much for your time and for sharing. Well, I'm energized, ready for my Friday evening, and I hope anyone who listens to this is. So you've done everyone a service there. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, Greg. Keep doing what you're doing as well. Loving it. So thank you very much indeed. All right, you take care.